So you came back. That means something. Maybe you couldn't quite explain it. Maybe it was a flicker behind your eyes, a whisper that echoed after the last video faded to black. The feeling that something in you had shifted, and you couldn't pretend otherwise anymore. Because once you've looked the trickster in the face, once you've seen the mask slip from reality, you can't go back to sleep. In part 1, we walked the old pathways, through the myths and symbols, the sacred stories passed down by firelight and shadow. We met Raven, Coyote, Loki, Anansi, Heyoka, Sun Wukong, not just as characters, but as forces, ancient, subversive, necessary. We explored Trickster as the great unraveler of illusion, the sacred disruptor, the mirror of contradictions. But that was just the overture, because the Trickster never stays still. They move, they adapt, they evolve with us. And now, in this moment, in this world unraveling before our eyes, they are rising again. Fiercer, smarter, wilder. This is part 2. The veil is thinner now. We're stepping into the living presence of Trickster energy as it manifests today. In digital realms, in ecological resistance, in evolutionary thought, in the sacred synthesis of everything we've been told must stay separate. This is where the myths catch fire, where metaphor becomes movement, where stories crack open reality itself. We'll meet the digital tricksters, those who bend the code and disrupt corrupted systems not to destroy, but to reveal what's broken and what could still be saved. We'll encounter the ecological tricksters, those who mimic nature's subversion, who speak in the language of roots and resistance, who channel wild intelligence in a world that has forgotten how to listen. We'll explore the evolutionary tricksters, visionaries walking beyond the edge of the known, shaping social technologies, spiritual containers, and thought forms that the old world cannot hold. And finally, the integrative tricksters, the sacred translators, the bridge builders, the ones who dare to weave science and soul, data and dream, logic and myth into something whole. But this is not just observation. This is invocation, because Trickster energy isn't a distant story. It's a flame alive inside you. Maybe you've been called too much, too loud, too weird, too curious, too disruptive. Maybe you've been exiled for refusing to pretend, for daring to laugh in solemn places, for asking the wrong questions, or the right ones at the wrong time. That wasn't a flaw. That was your initiation. You were never meant to walk the straight path. You were meant to spiral, to see what others deny, to dance where others fear to stand. And now the fire is rising. The mirror is clear. Part 2 isn't just a continuation, it's a deepening, an activation, a remembering. So breathe, loosen what clings to safety. Step forward, even if you tremble. Because the trickster's laughter is getting louder, and the dance is calling you by name. This is mystical illumination. Welcome to part 2. Let's begin. Two tricksters whose disruptive force transcends culture and time. The Lakota Heyoka and the Norse Loki. It's an uncanny mirroring, separated by continents, yet sharing the same sacred function. The Heyoka moves in reverse, laughing in sorrow, crying in joy, walking backward into revelation. They make the world uncomfortable, shaking rigid minds awake. Loki does the same, but with razor-sharp cunning. His flighting with the gods cuts into their deepest hypocrisies, exposing cracks in their mighty facades. Neither trickster disrupts for disruption's sake. Their chaos is a scalpel, precise and purposeful. They make way for transformation, even when that transformation demands suffering. And oh, how they suffer. The Heyoka pays for their power with isolation, called forth by lightning visions that set them apart. Loki's torment is legend, chained in agony, venom dripping onto his face, a fate born of his own unruly wisdom. Both teach the same harsh lesson. The path of the trickster is never easy, yet always necessary. But don't mistake them for mere villains. They refuse the labels of good and evil, fitting neither. The Heyoka holds sacred wisdom, yet unsettles all who come near. Loki slides between definitions, god yet monster, male yet female, shifting, morphing, undefinable. And therein lies their greatest lesson. Truth, though, lives in contradiction. Transformation thrives in paradox. Ultimately, these tricksters serve as mirrors, forcing the world to see what it has ignored. The Heyoka reflects the hidden flaws of their people, forcing them into awareness. Loki, through biting words and brutal honesty, unveils the gods' weaknesses. It is painful, but necessary. And at last, we see the cycle complete. Disruption leading not to ruin, but to renewal. The Heyoka keeps their people awake, conscious, adaptable. Even Loki's most destructive act, bringing forth Ragnarok, is not an ending. It is a beginning. The old world crumbles, but from its ashes, something new will rise. So now, Seeker, ask yourself, what needs breaking in your world? What must be undone for something greater to emerge? The trickster whispers, and the dance begins. And here we stand, on the threshold of the unknown, facing crises too vast to comprehend in simple terms. The old structures groan under their own weight, refusing to bend, resisting necessary change. But trickster energy, elusive, unpredictable, impossibly potent, has always known how to crack through what seems impenetrable. In an era of authoritarianism and corporate control, the trickster rises in unexpected forms. Whistleblowers leaking the truth, satirists wielding irony like a blade, ethical hackers slipping through the cracks of bloated systems, and radical thinkers flipping the script when no one else dares. These are the fire stealers, the ones who wrest power from towering institutions and place it back in the hands of the people. Just as Prometheus stole flame from Olympus, these modern tricksters reclaim knowledge, exposing injustice, reshaping the narrative before it calcifies. And what of our collective narcissism? This obsession with image over depth, consumption over connection, comfortable illusions over raw truth. The trickster is the antidote, the mirror held up to our collective shadow. They puncture grandiose delusions, disrupt self-serving fantasies, and force us to reckon with what we'd rather ignore. When comedians strip power down to its absurdity, when artists use distortion to make us see reality anew, when activists transform protest into surreal spectacle. This is trickster medicine at work. But the trickster's greatest act, breaking through denial, climate catastrophe, systemic injustice, runaway technology, all loom like specters, ignored at great peril. Trickster energy refuses silence. It forces confrontation, obliterates false comforts, ensures that what must be seen cannot be unseen. Truth unsettles first, but ultimately, it is the thing that saves. And then, the trickster bridges worlds, translating between fractured communities, shattering ideological walls, leading hesitant travelers across the abyss of difference. We are more divided than ever, each locked in our own curated realities. Trickster wisdom teaches movement, fluidity, paradox, not certainty, but the space between absolutes. What does this mean for us? That growth will demand discomfort, that wisdom arrives through absurdity, that sometimes rules must be broken to build something better. Trickster energy will not be ignored. It is here, waiting, ready to be engaged. The only question that remains, will we have the courage to step into the dance? But Trickster energy does not merely expose wounds. It heals. And how does it heal? Through the most unexpected force, laughter. Across traditions, tricksters wield humor as a spiritual tool, dissolving boundaries, releasing tension, making space for transformation. Trauma untangles when laughter slips past its grip. Power loses its hold when mockery strips it bare. So when justice moves with wit, when therapy employs paradox, when wisdom arrives wrapped in absurdity, this is the trickster working its magic, reminding us that sometimes what is sacred appears foolish, and sometimes what is foolish carries the deepest wisdom of all. There is more to explore, more wounds to mend, more veils to lift. The trickster waits, as they always have, just beyond the edges, daring us to follow. Shame, silent, corrosive, isolating. It thrives in the shadows, feeding off silence and secrecy. But the trickster drags it into the light, dissolving its power through exposure. When trickster energy deliberately transgresses taboos, embodies what society deems unacceptable, and reveals what is hidden, something remarkable happens. Shame loses its grip. Vulnerability turns into connection. What once felt suffocating becomes fuel for liberation. This is a force of healing that moves beyond mere defiance. It shifts perception. It reminds us that imperfection isn't failure, it's humanity. That the absurd and the flawed hold wisdom, if only we dare to see them fully. But shame isn't the only thing the trickster dismantles. In a world afflicted by rigid identities, compulsive behaviors, ideological absolutism, and addiction to certainty, trickster energy is the ultimate pattern breaker. It injects disruption precisely where stability has become a cage. Therapeutic approaches, from paradoxical interventions to psychedelic-assisted therapy, echo this wisdom, temporarily interrupting habitual patterns to create space for new possibilities. The trickster understands that sometimes transformation demands fracture. And our modern culture, specialized, compartmentalized, fragmented beyond recognition, the mind severed from the body, play sacrificed for productivity, the individual estranged from community. The trickster challenges these separations by embodying paradox, modeling wholeness not by erasing contradiction but by embracing it. Healing practices that reunite divided aspects, somatic work that reconnects intuition with rationality, creative expressions that bridge conscious with unconscious, rituals that restore communal bonds, channel this trickster integration, reminding us that true healing is messy, multi-dimensional, and alive. Perhaps the trickster's sharpest tool is its ability to speak the unspeakable. Every culture, every society carries its own dangerous silences, truths too painful to name, realities too destabilizing to confront. These silences breed dysfunction, sickness, systems that rot from within. The trickster refuses compliance. It names what must be named, asks what must be asked, strips away illusion before they calcify into delusions. Today's truth-tellers, investigators of corruption, documenters of environmental collapse, Voices of systemic injustice carry the trickster's flame. They unsettle first, but ultimately they heal through revelation. But this energy isn't distant. It isn't just mythology. It isn't just in history's radicals. It exists within you, waiting. How do you recognize it? Look closely. Have you ever laughed at the wrong moment? Found humor in places others fear to go? Do contradictions comfort rather than disturb you? Are you drawn to paradox? Do you question authority instinctively? Find creative solutions where others see walls? Have you been called too much, inappropriate, or labeled disruptive? These are not flaws. These are signs, signals. Your inner trickster calling you to awaken. But the trickster, for all its power, is not an identity. It's a tool. Reject it completely, and you risk rigidity, stagnation, sterility. Over-identify, and you risk chaos without direction, disruption without purpose. The wisdom lies in balance. Channel the trickster where it's needed, when structures demand breaking, when truth requires exposure, when creativity must be unleashed. But also, learn when to step back, when to integrate, when to ground yourself in stillness. Because here's the truth. The trickster does not demand allegiance. It simply asks, are you ready to play, to disrupt, to create? Because the path forward will require it. And if the trickster's laughter echoes within you, the time has come to listen. The trickster's spark lives within you. That sudden urge to challenge, to reimagine, to disrupt a stagnant rhythm. It's calling, not to burn everything down, but to reveal what has been hidden, to break open possibility. The next time that energy stirs, don't silence it. Ask, is this a moment where the trickster's wisdom is needed? If the answer is yes, let it move through you, but wield it with care. Reckless chaos is not the trickster's path. Precision, purpose, and disruption with intention, that is the true art. Now, how do you nurture this force? How do you embrace trickster energy without losing yourself in it? Through practice, through rituals that honor its paradoxical nature, integrating its brilliance without letting it consume you. Start with sacred foolishness. Play with reality itself. Wear your clothes inside out. Take a route you've never traveled. Eat dessert before dinner. These small rebellions against routine awaken a deeper knowing, reminding you that life is malleable, that order is not absolute. Then, break past your logical sensors. Dive into automatic writing, spilling thought onto the page without restriction. Move freely. Improvise without hesitation. The trickster thrives in boundaryless creation, in spaces where intuition flows unhindered. Next, shift your perspective. Step into contradiction. If you are an unwavering optimist, embody pessimism for a day. If you are rigid in rules, explore the art of bending them. Trickster energy thrives in duality, in the ability to move between worlds. And humor, oh, the healing power of laughter. Find the absurd in struggle. Let yourself laugh where others might wince. Humor transforms suffering, disarms fear, dismantles oppression through sheer audacity. But trickster energy is not only personal, it is collective. Use it where it is most needed. Bridge divided communities. Connect perspectives that refuse to meet. If you are someone who moves effortlessly between worlds, step into that power. Be the one who translates, who mediates, who dissolves division. Yet here's the critical distinction. Not all rebellion is trickster wisdom. True trickster energy expands consciousness, elevates understanding, even in its chaos. Shadow trickster energy manifests in harm disguised as wit, in disruption that exists only for ego, in boundary violations that disregard consent and respect. The Trickster is a force for transformation, not destruction for its own sake. So ask yourself, is this action rooted in curiosity, creativity, truth-seeking? Or is it driven by impulse, by a hunger for control or recognition? The Trickster does not shatter without reason. They illuminate, they reveal, they move towards something greater. Balance is the key. Trickster energy is not an identity to drown in. It's a tool to wield, a force to channel at the right moment. Use it when stagnation needs breaking, when truth demands unveiling, when creativity aches for release. But know when to step back, to integrate, to let silence shape what has been disturbed. This is the Trickster's path, not chaos without purpose, but disruption with vision. And now the question remains, how will you answer the Trickster's call? The Trickster is not just a force of disruption. It's a guide for transformation, a master of shadow work, a teacher of paradox. And if you truly want to integrate its wisdom into your life, finding Trickster mentors, whether through books, films, personal relationships, or unconventional teachers, is essential. These guides embody Trickster energy in ways that illuminate rather than distort, challenge without diminishing, and disrupt for the sake of growth, not destruction. A true Trickster mentor won't simply provoke or poke at your beliefs. They'll push you toward deeper understanding, helping you question assumptions without attacking your worth. Their humor will illuminate rather than humiliate. Their lessons will expand rather than diminish. They'll introduce you to discomfort, but not distress. They'll shift perspectives, open up contradictions, and help you see the world through a new lens, always with an undercurrent of compassion. But Trickster energy isn't just about external teachers. It's about internal work, and that means confronting the shadow. In a culture obsessed with toxic positivity, the pressure to be high vibe at all times, to dismiss suffering, to bypass anything uncomfortable, the Trickster refuses the illusion of pure light. Instead, it moves between realms, revealing the truths we'd rather ignore. Look at Loki, bound in chains, not because of his trickery, but because the gods could not integrate the truths he exposed. Look at the Heyoka, appearing when a community has lost connection to its own contradictions, forcing them to face what they've denied. Trickster energy always brings hidden realities into consciousness, and it does so through contrast, by embodying what is rejected, making visible what is ignored. This is shadow work at its most profound. Trickster energy forces us to acknowledge what we've suppressed, the parts of ourselves and our world we'd rather avoid. And though this process can be deeply uncomfortable, it is necessary for true healing. Growth only comes when we are willing to sit with what frightens us, rather than running from it. But the Trickster doesn't simply reveal shadows, it transforms them. Rather than erasing darkness, Trickster wisdom teaches us how to integrate it, how to harness shadow energy as fuel for creativity and evolution. Think of Loki's cunning, destructive when unconscious, yet vital when wielded with awareness. Consider Coyote's irreverence, dangerous without reflection, yet transformative when used to break stagnant systems. This alchemy, the ability to transmute shadow into wisdom, is a spiritual technology we desperately need. In a world that compartmentalizes, suppresses, and fears contradiction, Trickster energy reminds us that integration, not elimination, is the path to wholeness. It teaches us that both chaos and order, both destruction and creation, both darkness and light, are necessary forces in our evolution. So the question becomes, how will you wield this energy? Will you deny it, suppress it, fear its chaos? Or will you embrace the Trickster's wisdom, learning to use shadow not as a source of harm, but as a force for transformation. The answer is yours to explore. The trickster has been waiting. The dance is yours to begin. The trickster does not remain static. It evolves, adapting to meet each era's unique challenges. And now, as we navigate environmental collapse, technological upheaval, and cultural fragmentation, new manifestations of trickster energy are emerging to guide us through the unknown. Take the rise of digital tricksters, hackers who exposed systemic flaws not to destroy but to strengthen, artists who bend algorithms to reveal new dimensions of reality, creators who craft virtual worlds that challenge perceptions. The internet itself pulses with trickster energy, fluid, boundary-breaking, both wildly creative and dangerously unpredictable. To wield this energy wisely is a critical task. Then there are ecological tricksters, disrupting humanity's broken relationship with nature. Indigenous land defenders who use innovative legal strategies, scientists who apply biomimicry, learning from nature's own deception and adaptation to restore ecosystems, engineers who defy conventional wisdom to heal a wounded planet. Nature itself employs trickster wisdom, thriving through apparent disorder, surviving through mimicry and paradox. We would do well to learn from it. And now, evolutionary tricksters, stepping forward as humanity teeters on the edge of profound transformation. These are the thinkers who pushed consciousness beyond known limits, the visionaries crafting social technologies that help us coordinate at higher levels, the innovators who challenge what seems inevitable. Tricksters do not simply adapt, they forge new paths, using disruption as a gateway to revelation. But perhaps the most crucial tricksters of all, the integrative tricksters, the ones who weave fractured realities back together, those who build bridges between divided communities, those who translate between opposing ideologies, those who fuse science and spirituality, technology and ethics, past and future. In a world splintered by binaries, these boundary crossers are desperately needed. The future is uncertain, but uncertainty is the trickster's playground. And if we learn to move with them, to disrupt where disruption is needed, to rebuild where creation is possible, we might just find ourselves not lost, but on the edge of something extraordinary. So, Seeker, tell me, where do you see the trickster stirring in our world today? Because their dance is already in motion, and it's calling. And so, the trickster's dance continues, weaving through time, through myth, through you. This energy isn't just ancient, it's alive, evolving, finding new expressions in our modern world. And now, as we stand on the edge of unprecedented transformation, the trickster has never been more vital. But this exploration doesn't end here. If you're ready to dive deeper, beyond the limits of conventional spirituality, beyond rigid dogma, into the mystical and the unknown, then join us at Mystical Illumination on Patreon. There, we break boundaries, illuminate hidden truths, and challenge perceptions, all while embracing the trickster's wild wisdom. This is your call to step into the mystery, to embrace paradox, to play with the forces that shape reality itself. Because the trickster isn't just a story, it's a force within you, waiting to be unlocked. So go on, dance with the trickster, transform, disrupt, awaken, and above all, stay lit.